Hey, and welcome to the Other Illinois podcast. This is session 2, back from the fight. So it's been a while since we've been back on. We had our original podcast debut about 2 or 3 months ago, and a lot of things have happened in the meantime. First of all, Ryan, what's your big news? You were
Well,
kind of indisposed for a while.
so as many of you, some of you may not know, I was running for U.S. Congress, and as of last week, the state ruled in my favor to put me back on the ballot. I had someone contest my petitions, and the state overruled that objection in my favor. So I actually have faith back in our state for once.
Okay, well, good. No, that's awesome. I've got a few questions for you as related to that. As far as myself, there was an effort I call the Porch Tax. So basically, this was an effort to tax all home deliveries in the state of Illinois, and every delivery would be charged an additional $1.50, and this $1.50 would go directly to the Chicago Transit Union or to Chicago Transit Authority. Sorry, for a massive bailout to the tune of roughly $800 million. It was looked fairly unfavorably, and thankfully, most of the downstate Democrats in the House, it passed the Senate on a party line vote, but actually it wasn't party line because there were actually downstate Democrats that voted against it. And then when it got to the House, there were even more Democrats, particularly downstate, that pretty much looked at the bill and said, no, this is not going to fly with our districts. Thankfully, that bill was killed. And we'll talk about what the resulting bill was. Chicago Transit Authority still did get a bailout, but the vast majority of the money, thankfully, should be coming from the Cook County and the surrounding counties that are actually served by those regional transit authorities, not downstate Illinois, or as we refer to it here, the other Illinois. And I do want to give an update. First item on the list is going to be an update of Mike Madigan. So when we ended our debut podcast, Mike Madigan his sentence was pending, and Mike Madigan was sentenced to 8.5 years in federal penitentiary. His family was trying to get him sentenced to the penitentiary in Terre Haute, but federal sentencing guidelines leave it up to the judge as far as where you're going to be placed. And he was sentenced to federal penitentiary in Morgantown, West Virginia. So I don't know if you are familiar with Morgantown, West Virginia, but I can certainly tell you that we'll just throw his weather report up here. And so here we are, Morgantown, West Virginia. He's going to be pretty familiar with this type of weather. Wintertime conditions are going to be in the 30s, 20s to 40s, overnight lows in the 10s. Now, if you wanted to pay attention to some of the weather that's around there, as we all know, Chicago winters are pretty brutal. Morgantown winters are pretty brutal too. So they get a lot of high humidity and so if you're familiar with Morgantown, it's right on the Ohio River, and the winds actually kind of funnel through the Ohio River Valley. So you've got constant wind coming off of big water bodies. So it's a good thing he's familiar with the Chicago winters. That's all I'll say.
Well, you get what you have coming sometimes.
So, Brian, one of the issues that we had with the porch tax going down was the replacement bill. So the replacement bill to bail out the Chicago Transit Authority. This is basically the L and some of the bus routes that serve the city of Chicago and some of the suburbs of Cook County. Not every suburb of Cook County, but particularly some of the southern and western ones. The fix was to basically take road tax money that had been paid through higher taxes on motor vehicle gas and diesel and use that to bail out their operations funds. Now, if you are familiar with the CTA, it's become a haven for criminals. There was just a horrific crime committed about a week and a half ago. A man got gasoline in Chicago, poured it over a lady's head, and lit it on fire. And people just stood around, and she actually had to exit the train. This was on the L. So she had to get off the L in order to get some help because nobody on the L would help her. Thankfully, this gentleman has been charged with a federal crime. So he is going to find out, just like Mike Madigan, that the federal court system don't play. And I can say that because they have this gentleman on videotape not only purchasing the gasoline, but pouring it on her and lighting it on fire. So I don't know what this guy's attorney is going to do, but we'll see what happens with that. So with that, current media, like the Illinois Policy Institute and some other groups, have said that 80 to 90% of that road tax money is going to be spent in the Chicagoland area to bail out CTA and spend it on roads here in the rest of the state. And the rest of the state's expected to get somewhere between 20 and 10% of those funds. At a federal level, what can our Congress delegation to do to help us with this? Because obviously, we're going to have roads that break down here in the other 80% of the state of Illinois, and there's going to be no help coming.
So a lot of things they can do is legislate or request community project funding. My opponent has refused to bring in federal tax dollars into the district, but Illinois is one of those states that actually sends more money to DC than we receive. So what we could do is work with local legislators. We could work with the state Department of Transportation to get grant funding for certain project funds. So for example, like 55 South. Needs some repairs. They're just now recently, I live in Springfield, and some of the roads that they're repairing in Springfield are finally getting repaired. So working with your local legislators, but also bringing federal tax dollars into the district, but also having oversight of where those dollars are going. A lot of times the state, as we know, likes to tax here. So we need to have some kind of federal oversight of where that money is actually going. So I would say let's investigate where that money is really going as well. There's other things we could do. Unfortunately, the state of Illinois will continue to tax and tax and tax, but we need that money. But I would also say that we need to have oversight of where that money's going and community project funds.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, a lot of the Department of Transportation money that comes from the federal government to the state government, it's basically allocated to the Illinois Department of Transportation. It's not in a direct earmark. So what you're proposing is to actually start earmarking more and more of Illinois' portions of federal transportation funds. Then that way you can actually help drive those funds to the 80% of the state that's not going to be receiving a lot of help from the gas tax.
Correct. And I mean, like communities like where I'm originally from, Petersburg, Illinois, there's roads that are crumbling, and a lot of times they don't even have the money to pay. The problem with bringing lack of federal tax dollars into the district, and sometimes even the oversight of Illinois, is what that does is it causes your county level taxes to increase, because where I'm from originally, Petersburg, Illinois, they have plenty of roads that need replaced, but they have to raise your county taxes to offset that cost. So we need to really make sure we focus on downstate and not just upstate as well, but also bring federal tax dollars into the district as well.
Mm. No, and this is important because for those of you who don't know, your city roads may actually be U.S. highways. They might be state highways. They might be a state route, which is a lower level of state highways. Those the funds that go to repairing those roads will come from different taxing bodies. They may not come from your actual city, because your city, I'll give you a good example of one that you're familiar with, Ryan, would be Veterans Parkway in Springfield. That's a state highway. So the city of Springfield may have some input as to what goes on there, but it's the state that controls the traffic flow and how often that road is repaired. So it's not going to be the Sangamon County or the city of Springfield that works on that road.
And one of the things I've learned is being with the state is sometimes they don't always prioritize the right things. They prioritize pet projects, maybe of the governor or a certain legislator, rather than really focus on where they should be focusing on it. It's kind of sometimes the loudest voice in the room gets the road, or sometimes it's pet projects too. And I think that
Oh,
that's
I remember the $1 million pet project allotment that they got in. I think it was the 2023 budget. Basically, each legislator got $1 million to dole out to whatever highway project they wanted.
on the
I was
side.
like, I was like, geez, this is wonderful for somebody, but I mean, the old joke is that the reason that Illinois has so many townships is because there's so many farmers that want their driveway asphalted. So they basically change the township board members' seats from time to time, and they vote themselves a new driveway. But that one's a new one where individual legislators get to pick pet projects, and taxpayer just irritated me to no end. I don't mind fixing a road, but it needs to be a road that sees some traffic, has some use, and needs actual repair, not somebody's driveway. Or I have to drive down this specific road to get to my house, so it's going to be paved with gold.
Well, and one of the things, I mean, really at the end of the day, $1 million, actually, I know that sounds like a lot of money, but is not a lot of money for roads when you're thinking about labor and stuff like that. What I would like us to move towards is more, yes, it's going to cost a little more for the taxpayers up front, but I want to start build our roads to last, not just last for the next year. I really want us to really focus on trying to infrastructure investment to where maybe we do every 3 years we rebuild the roads because we actually build them longer lasting. And I know that's hard, especially in rural routes. But if you some of these rural routes, especially where the farmers drive their equipment constantly on, that destroys those roads. Regular car traffic doesn't do it. You got major semis going through these rural routes. So if we build them longer and better, they may last longer. In the long run, it may cost a little front, but I think overall, long term, it may save us money as well.
All right. So I'm actually familiar with federal contracting. Typically, most federal contracts are bid out and awarded to the lowest bid, not the best bid. So now there's typically language in the authorization acts that the Department of Transportation, whoever those people are, they can award it to best bid, but you're basically betting your entire career with the government on that project. So that's why a lot of contracts wind up going to lowest bid. And so, how would you like to attack that? Would you like to get more specific in the earmarks and say that this road has to be built for a 25-year spec or a 30-year spec rather than the typical 15-year spec?
I would agree with that, but I think it's to be more financially prudent and oversight of where our money is going, but also working with the counties, working with the other legislators. I represent federal districts, but we need to be reaching out to our state legislators and saying, hey, what are the issues you're facing and what do you need? What roads do you see that you need? Because they're more like, I'm in DC, they're on those roads every day going to go meet voters and driving on them. So I may not be in that district. I may not see that road. So working directly with your local legislators, your mayors, your sheriff's offices, for one. But I also think oversight of that money. I think we also need, like you said, we always go with the lowest bid, but that doesn't necessarily mean the best quality work. But sometimes, I mean, where I work for the state of Illinois, we're paying $2,000 to $10,000 a computer. So, that's not really fiscally conservative or fiscally responsible as well. So they may go the lowest bid, but we also they get that priority. But sometimes that's not you're intentionally allocating money where we could better use that. $2,000 for me is a lot of money for a computer when I can go buy something off the shelf for $1,000 for $500. And a lot of people don't realize this. The state of Illinois replaces a lot of their technology every 3 years because that's when the warranty expires. So every 3 years, it's a revenue cycle for new computers. And I think that we need to really focus on, for one, cutting that cost if we can, because we can use financial power and of the purse to control that, what we're willing to pay, but also and working with premium vendors or even better vendors who are willing to give us better prices, but also contractors. I want us to build something that actually lasts. I want us to have something that, 30, like you said, 30 years down the road, it may cost a little more upfront, but the long-term investment is worth it.
Okay. So going with that, I'm going to touch on Doge. So Elon Musk's Doge effort is widely viewed as a failure. However, what some of the people that used to work with Doge have come out and said is that the issues at the federal government are not actually employment issues where you've got X number of people that are could be laid off because you can, in an office of 10, you've only got work for 8, but you got 10 people there. They weren't finding a lot of that, but they were finding a lot of procurement issues. And that's not really something that Doge was set up to fix. What other types of things would you like to see changes happen at the procurement level with the federal government to try and fix the rampant overspending?
So for example, where I work in information security. A lot of times, like I said, we replace those computers every 3 years, but those computers may still be good. At my last employer, we had computers that were just sitting on the shelf that had been allocated money for COVID money. So unfortunately, based on state law, from my understanding is they were not able to reallocate those resources that were just sitting on a shelf collecting dust. Most of them brand new computers sitting in a box. We were not able to reallocate those resources to local community schools. We weren't able to allocate them to police departments. So really trying to recycle that revenue or recycle that product into a community that it's already been spent. So if anything, it's double taxation because you could easily give those to school department rather than the Department of Education getting additional funds. We could easily give them those old computers. For one, they're still good computers and they're high end computers. I mean, a lot of stuff we spend a lot of money on these technologies. So I would like to see where we reallocate resources and recycle resources. It's not the money's already been spent, and the products are it's still a good product. So why don't we just give it to the schools? Who cares if it has a warranty if it breaks? I would rather it be spent and reallocated that way. And it breaks, then we just give them another one because we've got thousands of them just sitting around in a warehouse doing nothing other than collecting dust. So I think that's the best way is to really focus on for one, where your money's being spent, but two, the inventory you already have, can you recycle that revenue? Or I'm
Okay.
sorry, recycle or repurpose that product. I think that's the most many ways we can save money in the state. But if you times that by county and federal and municipalities, that money that's as a taxpayer, that money adds up really quickly. So if we have oversight of that as well, and control and a mechanism to allow them to repurpose that rather than just destroy it.
Okay. We've had a number of issues with building infrastructure here in Illinois, particularly in housing. That's not an issue that the federal government has seen that it can actually try and help with. Do you have any ideas as to how you can actually try and lower the cost of housing, not only here in Illinois, but around the country?
Um, I mean, giving. I would rather see people homeowners than actually, if I'm being honest with you, I'm not against Section 8, but I'd rather see more home ownership than I would people renting. We are a very big rental society. I don't remember the exact number, but I think only like 35% of the population actually owns their home. Most people either rent. So I would like to see us actually being able to give low interest loans for people intentionally earmarked specifically for housing. I believe in community development money. What is it? Rural development money. So
Oh, okay.
kind of helping your rural infrastructure. I do support also natural resource protection. So maybe working with people like CREP, but also CRP, Conservation Reserve. So that's bringing
Oh,
money
okay.
back into the district because that can be money that goes directly into the county. That helps with county taxes and stuff like that as well. But also, right now in Illinois, we are one of the highest property taxes in the country. So putting legislation that really makes it more affordable because you buy your house and then you're basically renting it from the government through property taxes at a high rate. So
Yeah.
trying to giving access to low income interest rate loans intentionally for first time and multiple homeowners, but also bringing money into the district to help keep those county taxes down. I think that's the goal. But I think we also that speaks to broader to where we need to have financial literacy as well, because a lot of people rent because they don't understand how homeownership works as well. So we need to have better literacy within understanding how finances work.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, SALT is the line item on your federal taxes. It's basically called state and local taxes. So the abbreviation is SALT. The Trump administration, uh, during Trump one, I should say, lowered the SALT deduction to $10,000. It was unlimited prior. And they've recently, within the past month or two, have increased the SALT cap from 10,000 to 40,000. So would you be in support of keeping the line item at 40,000?
Probably yes, I would agree with
Okay.
that. I
Okay.
think at the end of the day, like I said, Illinois is a very, very heavily taxed state. We we already pay enough. So I mean, biggest thing is regulation and taxes. That's what Illinois is known for. Now, there's other states that have those same problems. But if I was to focus on Illinois, I think trying to eliminate as many taxes because people have more spending power, so that allows people to spend more money in the community. So that may be supporting local businesses as well.
Okay. The current fight on Capitol Hill is about permitting reform. It looks like the bill is not going to uh, be able to pass this congressional term. So I don't know if you're familiar with this, but this was a big effort by Joe Manchin and a number of uh, bipartisan people on the Hill to try and end the lawfare against building new infrastructure in this state, not only in this state, but around the country. So this is new highways, new bridges, larger bridges, as well as energy infrastructure, which is a big issue now here in Illinois as well. So, what kinds of things would you like to see to try and help in permitting reform?
So I'm a big believer in there should be some regulation, but I do believe in eliminating some of the red tape as well. Oftentimes, government gets in the way of progress. Kind of to touch base on the energy sector, for example, in Illinois, we are getting ready to have a data center here. So, as a ratepayer, a lot of people are very fearful of how that's going to have a negative impact on our property, or I'm sorry, on our energy bills here. So, I do believe in infrastructure, but I think it should be infrastructure that is benefiting. Like right now in Illinois, we struggle right now with a lot of very high electric bills. And so, if we're going to do infrastructure investment, I want it to be good. As a trade advocate, I want to see more modular nuclear reactors. I want to see more. I'm not against solar energy, but I want it on top of buildings, not inside of farmers' fields. So, for me, I would like us to do infrastructure investment through energy sector, through job creation, but not over. But I also don't want bigger bridges. What do we need bigger bridges for? We already have. I mean, we know the roads some here what suck, but also some of them are very nice. So why would we intentionally spend more money that we don't need to?
Okay, well, I'll give you a pushback on that. So, if anyone's driven I-55 from south of Bloomington down through Springfield and down to St. Louis, there's a lot of portions of I-55 that actually need to be expanded from a four-lane highway to a six-lane highway. So there are bridges that do need to be built along that lane to be built on that highway to make it six lane. And the money is not really forthcoming from the state. They are doing finally doing some roadway expansion to try and bring the six lane highway south from Bloomington into Springfield, but then it's going to narrow into four, go around the CWLP coal fired power plant, and then back south, and then that's goes back to six lanes. But even that area going through the Metro St. Louis area on the Illinois side, that's four lane highway, and I can tell you that that is packed constantly every day, and it should be 6 to 8 lane highway, and it's just not.
I would okay. So with based on your assessment, I would agree with those, especially in those high volume traffic areas. I would agree with that. Parts of Springfield by the power plant. I mean, those are very congested areas, especially when I used to work over in that area trying to take the interstate. So yeah, I would agree with that actually. So I would agree with you,
Okay,
especially in those
so
high traffic areas.
I just wanted
No,
to
in
put
those
it
high
out there
traffic areas, I agree with you. Yeah.
that we do need new roads and new bridges, expanded roads, expanded bridges in areas where we have a lot of high traffic now. You know, and I would also say that the U.S. highways that some farmers use to get grain, get grain moving. Those areas can be pretty busy during the fall and
Especially
during the
Route
spring.
Four. Like Route Four can be very busy.
Mhm.
You know, and the Jacksonville area. I'm sorry, not Jacksonville. Hillsborough, Litchfield area. I agree with you. Oftentimes, the problem is too is sometimes those roads are narrow, so expanding those, you would actually be able to pass those farm equipment more likely than. And I understand that they have a job to do, but sometimes they're a slow moving vehicle and people need to get to places. So I think expanding that road actually would benefit them. Yeah. So yeah, I would agree
Okay.
with you.
So you'd be willing to work with whoever's in Congressional District 13 to get those issues taken care of.
Correct.
Because right now, if you're, for those of you who aren't familiar with the map, so which district are you running
Illinois 15th.
in Ryan? Illinois
Oh,
15th. So I actually want to share the map here. And let me just share the map here with you guys. This is the map. So Ryan, your district is here in purple,
correct.
and it goes all the way around Chicago, Illinois 13, which basically is all the cities and municipalities along uh, Illinois 74, and then down south along, or I'm sorry, Interstate 74, and then basically turning the corner at Springfield, and then taking Interstate 55 south. So, yeah, let me. So, when they talk about gerrymandered districts, this is one of the most gerrymandered districts in the country. You are running in a Republican plus 22 district. So you actually are, if you were to win the primary, you're actually benefiting from this gerrymandering. Uh, what is your position on that, since this is a hot button topic for both Republicans and Democrats this cycle?
As much as I want to win, I believe in integrity within the process. So I really do think we should have an independent commission. I don't think the governor should have input into it. I think it should be non-bipartisan. It's a non-bipartisan issue. Um, you know, the 15th is one of the largest geographical districts, but then, like you said, the 13th cuts right through it. So it's intentionally designed that way. But the problem is too is Illinois is losing population. So as the population dwindles, I mean, I was originally in the 13th. Now, Taylorville, for example, was originally in the 13th, and now it's in the 15th because now you're shifting those districts to try to do population. So my fear is: are they going to eliminate downstate Republican tickets? Are they going to eliminate Republicans altogether? I mean, if you look at any of those, I mean, look at the 17th, look at the 12th. I mean, a lot of those districts are very, like you said, gerrymandered, but also they don't make sense. I'd love to see where they are more proportionate to the state, but the problem is we have to go based on population, and a lot of people don't realize, especially in my district, it's very rural, but land does not vote. And so we need to really, and especially because a lot of my district is farmland. Um, so the solution to me is, I'd say, is I would support it in the sense that, yes, I may be a Republican, but I also want it to be what is the most fair and equitable for all citizens of Illinois.
Okay. So at the federal level, I know that they've been pushing a number of things, and one of these is a constitutional amendment to mandate that states use independent apportionment bodies to uh, set congressional House seat boundaries. So you would be in favor of that?
Yes. The
Okay.
problem is, I also understand that even though we say independent, people still have a bias. So I think that we have to be the best way we can.
Okay. What I've heard them discussing is actually using the state of Iowa has a widely accepted nonpartisan process for setting congressional boundaries, and that's what what I've been led to believe that they're using for this amendment. So, um, uh, it's a proven process. It's from a neighboring state, so it sounds like you'd be fine with that.
I just believe in independent. I don't. The problem is, I just don't want either party. I mean, I know I'm a Republican, but I want fairness in the whole process, regardless. I don't want. I mean, that's important to me, is fairness in the whole process.
Okay, cool. So, what other kinds of issues have you come up that have come up when you've been out on the campaign trail this past couple months,
A lot of the
rather than
places.
being on a podcast with me?
So a lot of the people that I've talked to in the community want infrastructure investment in this district. I've talked to different mayors. Some of them say that the problems, just like any other community, they have drug problems, they have homeless populations, but they're not getting money into the district, infused into the district like they should. Illinois is one state, like I said earlier, it brings in more federal tax dollars to the DC than it receives. So I would like to try to keep more of that money home. That's jobs investment, that's infrastructure investment, that's community project funds, that's money in the community. Um, some of the other issues that I've seen are they just want accountability in government, regardless of Democrat, Republican. They just want transparency. They want to know where their money's going. Um, one issue that I actually would like to take on is, especially being an agriculture community, and I've talked to several farmers about this while I was on the campaign trail, is food waste. A lot of times we have food that they cannot sell or they can't do much with. So I would like to buy that food back using the Department of Agriculture and feed student lunch programs. All across Illinois, Iowa, and Missouri are very, very, very advantageous because we're agriculture states. So between the corn, soybean, beef, and pork that we produce, we could pretty much feed the whole country. The problem is getting distribution channels and taking on food waste. So I would really like to infrastructure investment for that to try to distribute to the rest of the country.
Okay. So let me push back on that just a little bit. So this is how is this food waste versus what would go to ADM as a processing
So
for processed into ethanol or other type of food?
So the biggest use of corn in our country is actually livestock feed and ethanol.
Hmm.
Um, so I would like to work with Illinois farmers to try to, yes, that helps, but find other food sources, find other, like for example, most of our apples come from Michigan and Washington, state of Washington. So trying to work with farmers to really find sustainable resources here in Illinois. Maybe even invest in hemp production. As an option for us as well. So really, really, for me, investing in Illinois farmers, but also expanding what they can grow, what they're allowed to grow. Um, Also, when I say that is a lot of times you have food that is perfectly edible, and we throw it away. I worked in the grocery industry, and you had food that was maybe it was slightly bruised. Well, oftentimes we would throw that away rather than maybe recycle that or do something else with it. It was just thrown in a trash. So trying to find better ways to use those products. Maybe that's composting. Maybe that's food sources. Maybe that food that maybe is ugly or doesn't necessarily look the prettiest. Working with farmers to buy that food back. So yes, you have corn, but you have other things that we produce as well. So I would like to
Okay.
try to take on that waste.
Okay. No, a lot of the food that is grown here in Illinois winds up going to a processor. It's typically not sold raw unless you're talking about sweet corn or pumpkins or Calhoun County peaches, which is in your district. I think Calhoun County actually doesn't get a lot of support and a lot of love for their peaches. So we hear about Georgia peaches all the time, but if you've ever had Calhoun County peaches, they're pretty good.
Well, and a lot of people don't realize that Illinois is one of the number one. I believe Illinois is the number one pumpkin producer in the world.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah,
we don't see it often,
undefeated
but
champ in that area.
I think a lot of it's in like Peoria area, actually, like Pekin.
Yes, that's
Yes,
correct. Yeah, over in Morton, Illinois, that's where a lot of the pumpkin processing is. So,
but
um,
Illinois also is a. I mean, a lot of people don't realize. I mean, Illinois is the number one soy producer, so a lot of that gets turned into biofuels. A lot of that gets turned into feed. A lot of that gets turned into cooking oils. So Illinois is very lucky in that that we're very advantageous that we have that ability here to provide those products and distribute. That's good for our local economy. My opponent, a lot of people don't even know who she is. They either don't like her or they have no clue she is. Out of every 10 people, eight of the 10 have no clue who she is or doesn't like her. And I think that is an interesting perspective when I put over 5,000 and 6,000 miles between my truck and my car in the last 3 months. And a lot of people don't have absolutely no clue who my opponent is. They never heard of her, let alone know who she is. And when you're a sitting representative, I find that kind of interesting, I guess would be the best word I'd say. But also good for me because I made that personal connection. But I think that that's also very disheartening when either people are disenfranchised or they're disinterested or they're not involved. And I think that that's an issue that I think is really important that we need to
Do
take.
you think that do you think that the issue is that they just can't get a hold of her?
I think that would be part of the issue. I have friends of mine that have told me that they've had to call Nikki Baczynski's office because they can't seem to ever get a return call unless you're personal friends with her. And I even have friends that are personal friends with Mary that have said they can't even get calls or responses from her. I have a friend of mine that's a disabled vet that has called her multiple times and didn't get any response. So he went to Nikki Baczynski's office to get results. And I think that that's really disheartening.
Okay.
But I think a lot of it is Mary's really focused on, or I'm sorry, my opponent is focused on a lot of special interests. She's more focused on attacking Chicago, attacking our governor, rather than actually trying to find solutions for her district. It's all about Chicago sucks, our governor sucks. Don't get me wrong, I understand that people may feel that way, but we need to focus on our district. And I don't represent Chicago, I represent the 15th, and I think that that's where she's gone wrong as well. I think she's really focused her energy on the wrong district.
Okay. Well, that's one thing that we're trying to do here on the other Illinois podcast is actually get the story in Illinois other than what's going on in the Chicagoland area, because basically we're just getting thrown out. I've never lived in an area where 5 to 6 million people are completely ignored just because they happen to live spread out over a very large footprint. Uh, anyways, well, Ryan, thanks for coming on the podcast tonight and having a discussion. I wish you best of luck in your race and hope that you'll come around to the other Illinois podcast sometime in the future.
Whenever you want me, I'll be here.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks, and thank you for joining the Other Illinois podcast. If you would please like, subscribe, hit that button. That helps us so much on new podcasts like ours. Get stories out. We're focused on Illinois issues outside of the Chicagoland area. So thanks, and have a good night.
You too, sir.